Here stands a house apart that is from care and need of the hands that quarried its foundation's clay, sculpted it into brick and tile, and fired them all in a kiln of the self-same soil. Apart from joyful limbs of he who wearied of setting them layer on layer, each bedded upon brother, who persevered and willed a home into being, then danced a jig upon its ridge, drunk on the wine of labour done. Apart from the waking dreamer, who saw in red mud not calloused labour alone, but more than one lifetime's adventure. Apart from the plough at sail, trawling the fields, spuming the soil and splitting worms as season after season turned. Apart from all those aparts, and greater than any, here stands Glen Fenny's house. Apart, that is, from Glen Fenny. The season was spring, the day in song, the sky as clear and vast as forever, when Glen with a sigh set a fresh-cut posy upon a tended burrow, from which grew only sorrow. Yet the fields had been sown, and in the hedgerows a warbler sang, "Tomorrow, young widower, is time and time enough to borrow of leisure and ease for today." To which the last robin of winter added, "Yet what is undone, so let it remain." And a cockerel in the yard bade morning, none knew to whom, and a wren swept in and out again of a blackberry thicket in tentative bloom. Glen leant dreaming upon his gate of splitting ash which gave onto the leafy lane, studying the shifting geometries of sunlight streaming through whitebeam and birch, as though trying to piece together again fragments which kept slipping like minnows away. The previous evening's showers did little more than darken the hollows, and a dragonfly of gold and sapphire wove in flight from light pool to light pool. To Glen, caught up in nostalgia, its airborne twirls so resembled those of girls who cross ribbons in May, he felt bidden to join in the dance, and he unlatched and stepped through his sagging gate, which creaked with guilt upon rusted hinges. Down the narrow, unworn path, grown mysterious with disuse, Glen trod, following the candy-striped conductor's wand to its water-cradle home in a glade which lay far beyond the parish's reach. And there it was, Glen saw, Among the stalks of the rushes and reeds over on the opposite shore, a boy, or a man worn down to a boy, sitting solemnly counting his toes, as naked as the lake from his withered heel to his weathered nose. Glen, hunkered down on his hams, peered through the mist at the boy, wondering what his being there signified. A call to hermitic solitude, perhaps, or nothing more than unfinished mourning. The boy sat still, so still as to be doubted, his bare existence a paradox. For he seemed intent upon nothing beyond his obsessive counting. And Glen felt drawn to boldly stare, as boldly as a knave to a keyhole bent, noting the even tint of the boy's waxy skin drawn taut the length of his naked frame, hairless as bone below his scalp, or as the surface of the windless pool. The silence deepened, and it broke under its own weight only when the boy looked up at Glen and spoke. He simply said, "What is your name?" and waited as if what Glen might say was of the weightiest consequence. Glen leapt aright and stumbled back upon the mossy bank, his hands down to arrest his fall, his shock no less than if God had spoken. A catkin dropped into the pool, and a ripple spread slowly to shore like a stain from spilled blood. The boy stood now, his bare feet mangrove-rooted in mud, his hands on his hips, a silence complete upon his thin, wet lips. Glen stepped over to the water's edge. "My name is Glen," he said. "My father's was Fenny. And you? What name do you go by? And why do you sit over there in so accursed a circumstance?"
"Have you not heard,"
the boy replied,
"of the Reedy Boy?"
"I have not," said Glen. "Are you he?" The boy did not reply at once, but sat back down among the rushes, and for a held breath Glen wondered if the boy were not after all just a trick of light and breeze, until he spoke again.
"Do you not see the flies at work among the reeds, amassing a swarm? Were their horde to mass at your fence, would you, Glen Fenny, lay open your gate to pestilence?"
Glen waded into the pool, intent on treating with the boy, but before he reached halfway or framed his entreaty, the sky blackened, the water darkened, and weeds began twining around Glen's legs. Unable to proceed, he begged, "State plainly, boy, what you have seen, for if pestilence comes and visits me, ruined I shall surely be. No, if he comes, I shall send him on his way. Now speak, Reedy Boy, speak!" But the boy's eyes dulled and lowered. He would speak no comfort to Glen, and fell to counting his toes again. Glen ran until he reached the lip of the unworn path, short of breath, chilled and damp with sweat, to be met at his own barred, creaking gate by a swaddled crone who sat in wait upon an enormous ash-grey trunk. Tight clutches of tiny round eggs nestled in the clefts of her deep-set egg-white eyes, and broody blowflies held vigil on her lashes, while others perched upon her lips, poised to ride her breath in search of whatever rotting carrion fouled the wellhead of its stench. A vision to inspire revulsion, true, but pity too, and in fairness, Glen approached upwind. But when she spoke, her voice evoked ancestral memories, the buzzing of wings, the mournful singing of rubbed hind legs. "Kindly, sir, I have wandered far and still have far to go. I weary so. May I but rest a while upon your land and at your charity? I seek no hand of welcome, only shelter and the use of a well." I shall not trouble you, hardly at all. Glen in kindness could imagine no harm. He told the crone she may sleep in his barn.